it almost feels a lot of the stuff that we're seeing with the digital transformation pieces, and the shifts that they bring in the changes to service delivery. It almost feels that we're in a potentially win-win situation, and I always feel uncomfortable when that happens because what's the old phrase? If you don't know who the sucker in the room is, it's you, basically. And so maybe a natural pessimist, but it does feel like that. It feels that we. I'll reference one of the interviews I recently did with Clay Barker from Revolution Retail Systems. They do money handling systems for all the big box stores over in the States. And that interview's on the on this channel on Digital Symposium. So those watching this after you've seen that, wait till the end of this interview, but head over there. What I thought was really interesting was they've used an augmented reality tool to move towards remote service. They don't have a field workforce. Their entire field workforce is third party. But what I thought was really interesting is I talked to them about the costs. What was the driver for adoption here? Was it to take out costs? Was it to? And they said we looked at it and we just saw so much we could do, whether it was reducing costs, whether it was driving customer service. But to be honest, in terms of how we price it and everything else, we use it almost as a marketing tool. He said our CEO, when he's speaking to, and I won't reference his customers because of courtesy and confidentiality, but it's the big box stores in the States, the elite big box stores. And so he said when his CEO's going in to speak to them, he'll just show them how the solution works because they've seen that as an investment in being able to deliver the best service that they can. And that again strikes me as sticking to that fundamental. You have to serve your customers and to do it in the most efficient and effective way that you can, so somebody else doesn't come along and say, well, actually we can also offer that service and do it better. And it was really interesting to see somebody using all of these really high-end tools, and again it's just reinforcing that point that it's still serving the customer, and how we do it has evolved, but that fundamental piece is absolutely critical, man. As you say, it's understanding that that's the bit that we're trying to get to. I say this, of course, assuming that it's not assuming. I know how challenging it is to pull off these digital transformation projects, but I'm talking as if it's a given that they're going to happen. But it's not, is it? It is a particularly complex undertaking. I know we're kind of potentially underselling like the role you would have had in that retail example. I mean, what's the biggest pitfalls that you're seeing when it comes to companies that, in that first group, going right back to the beginning of the conversation, that first group that they've almost started on a flat foot, start from zero, and they suddenly see, right, wow, we need to catch up, and we need to catch up quickly. During the pandemic, they needed to catch up for completely different reasons out of necessity, but now those issues are still there. The platform's still burning just as much because everybody else has taken a quantum leap forwards. What are the biggest pitfalls in that? Right, how do we get started?
So a lot of companies at the moment are looking in terms of shift left, in terms of self-solve, okay, or self-help, right? So a lot of organizations are looking to shift delivery and service to the lowest cost denominator, all right? A lot of the systems that they've got today are not capable of delivering that in terms of a lot of them are green screen, a lot of them are not modularized, a lot of them aren't capable of doing that. So their starting point is, okay, so if I use the business case, right, of self-help, can I therefore justify the replacement of the tool set? Okay, that might work, right? Organizations, that's one approach. So I've got a tool set that's legacy and I need to replace it. Another approach is we're actually moving into a new paradigm in terms of customer service. So we're having to, we're moving away from physical storefront. We're moving away from physical presence. We all see that on the high street. We're moving to, virtual storefronts, virtual portals or whatever else. So our predominance from our business model is flipping. Whereas it was 70% physical and 30% virtual, It is now 70% virtual, 30% physical. Literally, the shops could effectively in the future become the try before you buys. If you can't do a virtual reality try on of an item of apparel, or actually scan where the TV is going to sit in your room, you might actually go into a store to actually see it and get some viewpoint of it. Okay, so that's another thing that's flipping, right? And then, so just with those two examples, all right, what we're seeing is, okay, so take the second example, 70% now virtual product purchase versus 30%, right? How do you tie the front end portal through all of the various processes and workflows, okay, which is stock provisioning, stock ordering, credit check, right, billing, invoicing, um, packaging, processing, logistics, transport, shipment, etc. All of those things. How do you tie all of those different systems together? So we're putting in place solutions that leap across all of those, because in lots of cases you've got organisations that have got systems that are so embedded in their companies that literally they can't afford to rip them out because the company stops functioning. Very few organisations have got the benefit where they've grown up in a digital world and started as a digital company, right? So if you look at banks, for example, Monzo and a few of the other banks, these disruptor banks, they've got the ability to be able to cobble together various different systems and approaches to be able to deliver the services to us as consumers, because they don't have that legacy provision. Whereas you look at Lloyds, HSBC, Barclays, etc., they've got 30, 50-year-old systems that they've still got to keep going to be able to provide all those services, all right? Another example. Or if you're talking about shift left, so if you're talking about moving left and taking costs out by putting in a new system, and that's one of the most recent ones. The use cases for moving to the new system, how are you going to do it? What's the business benefits, okay? How are you going to be able to train the new users to be able to use the system? How are you actually going to get people to actually adopt the new system? How are you going to be able to provide all of this? There are so many different things that we're involved in, and there are so many different starting points. What I would say is, if you're starting a digital transformation and you don't know what you don't know, because you go, oh, I need to transform, right? Spend some time listening and talking to your customers about what's going on in their environment. Write down how you're delivering your services today, how you're servicing your customers. Talk to some of the people in your organization about some of the key challenges to be able to deliver those services to those customers. Work out what your key business processes are and how your IT systems support or enable those. And there's two different things between supporting a process and enabling a process. Supporting a process means that bit gets done, then that bit gets done, and then that bit over there gets done, and then you've got people sitting in between, or some form of cobble that makes it all string together. If you've got an IT system that enables it, it enables that bit to happen across a whole series of activities. Once you've got all of that, you can then say, right, how do I then approach? What are the key things that I can do? And that's when you can then move into the agile, fail fast, succeed quickly mindset, which is, okay, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. Let's get groups of people together to actually deliver the changes. Let's facilitate and enable them to do it. And let's try as many different things, recording and tracking what the impact is on our customers, on our employees, on the way in which we're recording and tracking systems and information, to be able to see what is actually working. And you'll find 2 or 3 things that are really, really small and incremental change, which will suddenly have a dramatic impact. And there'll be 2 or 3. It won't be 1, it'll be 2 or 3, and it'll start to have that mind shift. If you're looking to shift left, for example, most organizations look at the use cases in terms of the highest number of calls that are logged onto a service desk or onto an IT desk in terms of the most common issues that are happening, okay? Another thing to look at is the number of self-service requests, the number of issues that customers have got, or customer feedback or customer interactions, and use those, and only choose 3 or 4 if you're actually going to try and drive that shift left. If you're looking
Again,
at different delivery models and you're looking to try and tie systems together, look at workload automation. Look at how you can automate the workloads across your systems and actually transfer and translate that as you go across. Just a few things.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice.